welcome to Faith in Politics, where we aim to discuss politics through the lens of faith, both here in Hawaii and around the world. I'm Brennan Scarborough, your host. The holidays are upon us. Where did the year go? Now join us as we take a look back at some of the compelling stories we've covered this past year. In August, Mike Rompel of Domino's Pizza Hawaii, together with Malala Pou, responded to people who were asking about the economy. Then Daniel and Lucy Molina, parents of 7 kids, discussed the strange obsession with drag queen shows for kids. And we start this episode with an interview recorded back in March with Jan Markel of Understanding the Times, a syndicated radio station program heard across 900 radio stations in the U.S. Is the current world situation found in biblical prophecy? Here's Malala Pou's interview with Jan.
Jan Markel, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you're in Minnesota. What's the temperature there today?
I don't know if you folks want to know. It's a wind chill. It's still, it's our spring, but it's still about 20-degree wind chill. So bitter cold for a lot of people. I'm kind of used to it, but many people can't adjust.
Well, it's a chilly 82 today here in Hawaii,
Yep.
and with the wind chill, it's 82. So
Yeah. Rub it in. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for joining us. Even it's via Zoom. We have been watching you and your ministry and your conferences. People here in Hawaii that don't know a lot about you and your ministry. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I incorporated Olive Tree Ministries almost 40 years ago now, and but I did not start the radio angle until 21 years ago, when the opportunity came to actually go into a kind of a new phase of ministry, both radio and conference activity, in about 2001, 2002. And I had no idea if it would take off. It's just so hard to know, and hard to know the interest level. And then also hard to know, with the churches not emphasizing a lot of things like current events, they don't really emphasize eschatology. So then what is the comprehension level of those sitting in the pew? I would think not the best. I was pleasantly surprised to at least now, over the few years and now into 21 years, I am encouraged to see there's at least a remnant that is longing for the truth and will go and dig for the truth if they have to. Much of that is found online. We have the Beast system working for us, which I think is amazing. But much of this is found through internet presentations, online presentations, YouTube presentations, and so thankful that we can get the word out to the ends of the earth. And that's literally what's happening, and in part thanks to productions like yours.
What was it that kind of prompted you to kind of lean more into the prophecy side of things versus anything else?
To be honest, as a young adult, someone handed me Hal Lindsey's Late Great Planet Earth. And I sat down and I read that, and that was somewhere in the 1970s. And then everything made sense after I read Hal's book. And I know Hal. I've brought him to the Twin Cities a couple of times. And he told me, he said in that book, he just wanted to write a book that would simplify the end time scenario so the average person could understand it. Because before Late Great Planet Earth, people were mildly intrigued, but so chased off by the details. You've got the various images in Daniel and Revelation that can be scary, and one world this, and an antichrist and a false prophet, and some of it made no. Well, Hal's book helped millions of people, and I'm one of them.
My barber is not a believer, but he grew up in a home that had some biblical teaching. And when I went to get my haircut, I said to him, first thing, we were looking at CNN as at the barbershop being bombed by Russia. And I said to him, I don't know if you believe in the Bible, but this is prophecy before our eyes. And we went for about an hour to get my haircut, which is fairly simple. An hour just talking about prophecy and what it means, and Gog and Magog, and all these things that he's telling me about as a fairly new inquirer of prophecy. What can you encourage or or kind of talk to people that are just fairly new in this? Because I imagine they're pretty scared right now.
There are images in the media that are just frightful. And I think there's a huge difference. I mean, for instance, World War II, you saw nothing in real time. And now we're seeing conflict in real time. We're seeing the explosions as they happen, which is simply astounding. You can feel the heartbeat of the people who are going through this, not literally feel it, but you can sense what they must be going through. So many are in shelters. Others are, dying. So I personally feel, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and your audience can weigh it and they can do whatever they want with it. But I feel that in the last week to 10 days, Vladimir Putin has revealed himself as Gog, G-O-G, that's right out of Ezekiel 38:39, that he's revealed himself as Gog from the land of Magog. And I believe the land of Magog is Russia. And that coalition in Ezekiel 38:39 is going to come and descend on the mountains of Israel in the latter days, it says, to seize her wealth, to seize a spoil or her wealth. And quite frankly, the whole world is boycotting Russia right now. I don't. Their banks are defaulting. The people, because of this war that's very right now, just in a couple of week war. I believe it's going to extend. And I think that Mr. Putin, if he is Gog, again, that's G-O-G, Gog from the land of Magog, he needs the wealth of Israel right now, because he's going to be in a terrible position financially, with the whole world coming against him, sanctioning him, wrecking his economy, totally wrecking his economy. So now the hook in his jaw, and that's what it says in the passage, Ezekiel 38:39, there's going to be a hook in the jaw of Gog to bring him down from the uttermost parts of the north. When you hear directions in the Bible, it has nothing to do with Hawaii or Minnesota or New York City. It has everything to do and only to do with Israel. And so from the uttermost north of Israel, you could look at a map. Straight north of Israel is Moscow. And I believe the reason Mr. Putin has turned into a barbarian is that he has now been empowered to be Gog and to lead this invasion. We don't know when it is. It could be very soon, or it could be years away, but I suspect it's soon. And that just means we're so late in the eschatological game. We are so late.
So what are we telling Christians right now through that? I mean, if that is true, which there's no doubt it appears to be true.
I'm going to say the last days, we're in the last days. I think most Christians today would acknowledge that so many of the things the Bible said the last days would be perilous. Again, you just look at the headlines of any online publication, and the headlines are just stunning. It's just staggering. You look at lawlessness. You look at government overreach. I mean, government overreach today is just staggering. Equip yourself to understand the times a whole lot better than you ever have before, because the Bible, I believe the pages, the events of the last days spelled out in the Bible are leaping out now. And we need to understand that we've got people who are coming to Christians and saying, what on earth is going on? What is happening? They're even saying, what does your Bible have to say about it? Do we have an answer? I hope so.
Special thanks to Malala and Jan for that discussion. You're watching Faith and Politics. We'll be right back.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. This year, most of us have faced financial hardship, not to mention a culture drifting further from biblical truth we hold dear. Yet many of you still partnered with us. Thank you for your sacrifice. Despite this tough year, God is always working. We continue to engage in the political arena, invest in future generations. Local ministries across Hawaii are broadcasting on our station, and programmers from around the world continue to reach Hawaii. What does the future hold? 2023 looks amazing, but it starts here. Can I ask you to pray for us regularly? And for those who can sacrifice financially, we humbly thank you in advance. This is an effort on many levels, and what we do is more important than ever, engaging our culture and building up the body of Christ so that in 2023, more homes, more people across all generations will experience the good news of Jesus Christ. Mahalo for partnering with us.
Welcome back to Faith in Politics. There's a strange trend happening across the country where minors are exposed to drag queen shows. As parents of 7 children, Daniel and Lucy Molina discuss the disturbing trend. To help you understand, we begin with an edited video clip of one of these drag queen shows.
So Lucy, when are we going to take our 7 kids to one of these events?
Absolutely never.
Why not?
That was awful. That's awful. You know, I'm so shocked. I'm angry seeing a video like this. Really disheartening to see that parents would take their children to this. And you know, the title of the video says family friendly, right? Family friendly drag show. Like, when has anything drag, transgender, homosexual, when has that ever been family friendly?
Yeah, I'm pretty perplexed of why is our society, why is culture, why is that community in Texas at all places allowing that to happen?
Right. So
right. I mean,
how?
there's laws right now that governs against this kind of behavior.
Right.
Right now, if I were to read the laws, in fact, let me read it up real quick. Sexual grooming is the process by which a sexual predator cultivates a relationship with a potential victim. Through grooming, the abuser builds trust and an emotional connection to target the victim in order to manipulate and abuse them. These events are trying to build trust with these kids. My mom and dad are here. They're trusting us. They're tolerating it. So what happens when the parents are not there and these men in tights wearing whatever they're wearing, dancing erotically, listening to music that are just, I can't even say in public, on TV,
right,
without putting an R rating. And when the parent's not there and you have that man with your child, they're building trust. Is that not what sexual grooming is?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a form of sexual abuse. It's a form of child abuse, right? Purposely inviting children to come to these events. They're getting into their psyche. They're getting into their minds to make it normal. Yeah, they didn't take their clothes off, but everything else, all of the moves, everything else.
They lifted the skirt and flashed.
Right, they're flashing, right? They're insinuating that this is like stripper type movements.
Making money, collecting money.
Taking money,
you have to be how old to go to a strip club?
Oh gosh, right?
18,
like you have to be, it's appalling that it would be considered a family-friendly event, and even more appalling that parents are not even thinking this through and taking their kids to this. And in this particular clip, you can see some women in the background where there is a child with them, and their faces look horrified. Like, what am I watching? There's a scripture in Matthew 18, I have it open up right here. And this is the first thing that I thought of, where Jesus is speaking and he says, whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, to stumble, to err, right? It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the sea.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy.
Right? And he goes on to say, woe to the world because of offenses, for offenses must come. They will come, right? But woe to that man by whom the offenses come. And I just thought this was interesting. I broke down the word offense. And that word, we've used it to mean things that hurt my feelings, right? But that specific specific word is the word scandalon. In the original scandalous. That's where we get the word scandalous, right? Scandalon means it is a trap.
Lure.
Lure and entrap unsuspecting
Sounds
victims.
like sexual grooming to me.
Right? So they're being trapped. That's what the offense is. And then if you just look at Webster's definition of scandalous, you go to that word scandalous, it is behavior or activity considered immoral and shocking, causing general public outrage by a perceived offense, there's that word offense, against morality or law. This was an outrage both on the moral spectrum and on the law spectrum.
Speaking of the law, right. So I know of people that do similar things and worse that are in prison, right? And there's things where families have dropped cases where there's sexual abuse, psychologically or physically, where the state will pick it up and prosecute that person. Right. And so a state, Texas state, needs to pick up that event and prosecute it because there's people in prison because they did similar activities to groom their victims, to trust them so that they can later on do stuff that's just unthoughtful.
If it's not the state that's going to pick it up and prosecute, then people need to rise up. People need to stand against this. And as believers, especially as believers, we shouldn't be tolerating it. Was it a parent's choice to take their child? Absolutely. But as believers, we should be standing for the rights of children as well. And we should be helping to protect these kids. And those types of events and activities should not be permitted. They should not be happening in any state, in any town, anywhere.
Thanks to Daniel and Lucy for your insight. In our next segment, we interviewed people back in August and listened to what they had to say about the economy. Mike Rompel of Domino's Pizza Hawaii and Malala Pou respond to the comments. Check it out.
How much of a factor is the cost of living to you?
It's a huge factor. I mean, this is where we live, and as long as I can sustain my family in my home, I want to continue living here. If that continues going up past my income, obviously going to have to possibly look at changing our location.
Huge because it directly affects your daily living.
It's pretty important because my husband and I, of course, are retired, so our income really doesn't move up very much.
Almost everything. It's been messed up for 2 years now, and we got to get it back on track.
The cost of living is a huge factor because our prices here in Hawaii have just gone up in the past year. The cost of groceries, gas, and rents going up astronomically, the cost of housing all across the board.
Things are kind of a mess right now, so I feel like we need to vote for some people that are going to bring some change.
We thought, we're going to have like 1,000 extra every month. But now, because of the cost of living, it's like not even half of that is left.
The economy is important, but also the issues behind the economy and what is happening behind the scenes. The decisions being made that put our economy into this position that it's in need to be addressed. And those are completely leadership issues, and they came from the top down, and now they're affecting all of us.
Big factor, because I see some of my money taking a dive. I see inflation rising and people starving and being kicked out of their houses because they can't pay rent, and there's all kinds of problems.
That's a really hard question because I think of a million things that are all involved in the economy, but I'd say 100%.
Well, I have a big family, and being a sole provider and Hawaii being as expensive as it is already, you definitely have to consider what's it gonna cost to put food on the table and to fill up, the tank of my car. So
what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I mean, we all hear about inflation, but we feel it long before we hear about it. We don't have to have someone tell us about what the rate of inflation is. We should be able to see that everything costs us twice as much. Politicians want to make it a difficult subject, and it's a simple subject. There's only 3 things that really influence the cost of living. Probably 90% are those 3 things: safety and security, land and land use, and energy. All you really have to do is solve 3 things or work on 3 things. It's when they try to tell you that we're working on these top 100 things that it's an illusion. You don't have to work on 100 things. You just have to work on 3.
We all kind of knew something was occurring. I know they blame Russia a lot on this, but I mean, we kind of knew it beforehand because the gas prices kept going up, increasing up. And we noticed in our stores that food prices kept increasing, and then the lack of inventory. So we immediately knew something was occurring, but yet we're dealing with a lot of other issues, it seems like, and not really dealing with the issues that we're really struggling with.
So this has been a political debate probably for 100 years, right, since the New Deal. The reason why it's so apparent to us now is because there's such a dramatic difference. You know, I'm 50 years old. This is the greatest eye-opening experience in my 50 years. You go from one set of policies that had gas at half the price, and you go to a different set of policies that double the price of gas. One is right, one is wrong. It's easy to see. Smoke and mirrors is the rest of it. There's been wars for all during that 50 years. There's been wars for all during the 100 years. The only difference is policy.
Seems like it's how we vote. We get back to how we vote versus just complaining about it, right? Because they say our vote matters, and here's a prime example of our vote mattering.
There's no doubt that these next upcoming elections, both this year and probably in 2 years, are the greatest elections of our lifetime. It might sound cliche to say that, but we only have today. And today is the most important day of our lives, and we need to take believing action to do something about today. And so obviously what's coming up next is the most important. So I don't want it to sound cliche, but at this time, it is important. We have to vote.
It feels frustrating to me that you have a big family, like one of the gentlemen said there, and there's really nothing you can do about it, you know, with putting food on your table to feed your family. And now you can't feed your kids as much or as healthy as you would like to because of those costs.
Yeah, I think that's the first sign of defeat, when you feel like there's nothing you can do. We aren't there yet, but we're getting there.
Right.
And we need to vote to make sure that we maintain our freedoms and our ability to vote, and that vote matters. Of course, in Hawaii, if you have 1/3 of the population voting, your vote is exponentially greater than those that don't vote. At the same token, you can look at that and say, well, then if we do vote, my vote is exponentially greater than those that aren't voting. And I just want to vote with other like-minded people and have that vote matter in a way that makes a difference on who's changing policy.
How do you think your vote will affect the economy?
It depends on how many people vote the same way. I'm hopeful that it will altogether that'll make a big difference.
You know what? I've never given it much thought. I understand that the economy goes up and down, recessions.
I think our votes have a huge effect on the economy because these are the political representation of us that then go in and pass bills, make the legislation, and set the rules for our nation that then we all have to abide by. We're the voice, they're just the tool that puts it on paper.
Hopefully it does. I mean, you vote people into office who can make change.
We try to pick people that are cognizant of the fact, you know, that it's going up all the time.
I hope that my vote and everybody that goes out and vote, that our votes will affect the economy, because we're going to vote for officials that will listen to all of us and listen to our concerns and take those into consideration.
They got in through votes, and you move them out through votes. That's how our democracy, our republic works. And so every vote is important because there's people that are going to vote against America, so to speak. They're going to vote for continuing down this path that we're going down. And so we need our votes to counter those votes and to push it back the other way and to take our country back.
That is hard to say. I know every vote counts, and I just got to be one of the many.
Well, I think the leaders that we choose when we vote are who directly influence the cost of living and how we are able to live our lives.
I hope it will, but I think from the way things have been handled that it's really going to get worse. That's my opinion, that we should all be ready for that. But God's in charge.
So I think that it's our responsibility to get out there and to let our voices be heard, and that's the way to affect change. And if you don't vote, then you're not doing your responsibility. You're not holding up your end of what it means to be in this country.
ultimately, I think voting is something that if we all vote our conscience and vote biblically, that we can make a bigger impact together. One vote is still just one vote, but one vote is one step closer to making change.
You know, what I took away from those videos is really how I feel. Like, does my vote really matter? They got in somehow, right, of voting. And so we can get them out somehow. And I think it's important that we have at least the idea that not only does my vote count, but maybe it doesn't count the way I wanted to count it today, but maybe the next time we go around, there's more of us as believers that can say, yes, my vote counts alongside someone else. Therefore, we can put people in office. Because right now, who's being heard? It's the party or platform or the direction that's going down a path that I don't feel that it's healthy for my family.
Yeah, so this is the important part right here between a democracy and a republic. In a democracy, we all vote, and then that person that gets elected decides policy. In a republic, we vote, and that person is for the people, by the people. And that's the massive difference. Our vote matters because we're a republic. That when that person gets elected to office, they represent us. They don't tell us what to do, we tell them what to do. When we give up that power, then there's another force that takes over. And we just cannot allow that force to take over. And how we do that is we do not relinquish power. How do we not relinquish power? We vote.
It's a little frustrating, too, when you look at the statistics on the number of believers that don't vote. They may be registered to vote, but they don't vote because I think they have the same frustrations that we all do. We're looking at this big elephant, right? And we're trying to move an elephant away, or this big, massive problem. We think, well, it really doesn't matter.
Ironically, use the term elephant. God is in charge of our lives as we take believing action. If we don't take that believing action, we relinquish that power. We relinquish a power that is unlimited. And we can't do that just for the simple fact that sometimes when we vote, it doesn't turn out the way we expect or want it to, and then we have these consequences. We put God at the center of our lives, and we live by faith, but we still have to take believing action.
Thanks to Mike, Malala, and all those who participated. And that's all the time we have for this episode. This program exists because of viewers like you. We're the only local political program here in Hawaii with a Christ-centered point of view. And from all of us here at Faith in Politics, we thank you for your support, financially and prayerfully. For those watching on social platforms such as Rumble or YouTube, please like, subscribe, and of course, hit that notification bell. Invite your friends to tune into our program. I'm Brendan Scarborough, and Merry Christmas from all of us here at Faith in Politics.